Welcome to the Simply Jesus podcast. This season, we are focusing on what it looks like to be Jesus in your daily life or business. And I'm excited to bring you these inspiring stories. I have such an exciting story to tell you, and I just can't wait to tell you. But first, let me introduce you to my guest, Tara Flores.
Hi, Cheryl.
It's so good for you to be here. Tara, you own Flor Luxury Decor?
I do.
Yes. Okay. So first, let me tell the audience kind of about how we met. So back in this summer, I think it was July, I had to go look at the calendar. My son and I were going to just our local farmers market. We just needed something to do. And as I was walking through the aisles, I saw some of these booths and they seemed just a little darker. You know, there's like a booth with, I just specifically remember the one that's like black with like purple swirls. And it just felt a little icky to me, you know. So I'm walking down the aisle and there's actually two booths on either side that were, I don't know, one was, I think it's like healing crystals and things like that. But then I saw your booth and I swear it was like this light on a hill and it was just so bright. And so I was immediately drawn to your booth. And I just noticed how bright it was and just the fact that you had like these gold cords and tassels because she sells candles and perfumes. It's all like pure and organic. And so I remember picking up your lavender candle. I love lavender. And as I smelled it, it smelled like peace to me. Like it really, have you heard people say that before? Yeah. It really smells like peace. So I went ahead and I smelled it and I loved it. And so I thought I would take a chance and I let you know, and I asked you, right? I didn't know if you had seen The Chosen and if you were like a follower of Jesus, but your booth remind me of that. I think it's episode 8 in this last season of how Mary goes to buy this expensive perfume that's pure and how she buys it, in Jerusalem. And I just felt like your booth reminded me of that exact same scene of, and I think it's probably just the way stores are set up, like in farmers market, it's just kind of organic and outside and all that stuff. But anyway, I remember asking you about that. And you did say, oh, I do. I don't know if you remember. You said something about, I do believe in Jesus.
So this whole interaction you just mentioned had such a huge impact on me on my day that I may have shared this story probably like a couple of hundred times with people.
Same.
So long story short, the journey started off on a personal note, how I would create scents which are organic and good for my own health. And then it turned into a business.
Oh, wow.
My interaction with you was essentially after my meetings with a consultant company who was telling me how to scale your business. And the first fundamental rule in terms of scaling is to make sure you bring your costs down.
Right.
And your profit margins are high. And then when you do hear an expert advice like that, you do take that into consideration, right? Not necessarily to make that change, but just to think about it, that, okay, there's an area of opportunity that I need to think about. And then you came around and I clearly remember you were actually not trying to start a conversation with me. You were just looking at the products, you were looking at the booth, and then you were essentially just talking to yourself saying that, this smells really nice. This smells like very peaceful. And then your first words to me was like, I'm not sure if you're saved. But have you seen the show Chosen? This whole thing reminds me of that scene where Mary poured the most expensive oil in Jesus's feet. Yes. And you said it also was in burlap because all our candles are packaged in burlap bags. It reminds me of that.
Yes.
And it was a very quick interaction, very deep one. Obviously, God was present. He's always present, but in that moment, obviously, you could feel it. So for audience, we both were actually tearing up in the middle of the market. And as you were walking away, you said to me, don't let this purity go.
Really? I don't remember that.
And that impacted me for hours after our interaction. And to me, it was God's way of telling me that just keep going the way you are doing it, right? You don't have to listen to consultants or try to bring your costs down. Just focus on purity, right?
Wow.
Because that's how he has designed the world. I strongly believe that natural, organic way of living is very much aligned with God's design.
Right.
Right. So that's our fundamental core value of the business. And again, to some people, it was just a quick little interaction. To me, you made a huge impact on my day and on our business. Right. And I share the story with people all the time. It's like, this lady stopped by, she talked, and then I went home. The Chosen, obviously, for ages is being played in our homes, right? Sometimes it's just playing in the background. We're doing our things. I went home and I specifically looked up that episode. I had a good friend over. She also played it on her phone just to see that exact scene.
Yeah.
And that just gives you more confirmation that, wow, this is organically very much like that scene where packaging is in burlap. It is the expensive oil making fragrances, right? With no chemicals in it. And it's top notch. So it aligns with everything that we saw in that scene.
Yes. Yeah.
So this also leads us to the perfect opportunity to constantly remind ourselves that you can make impact in someone's life with as little as this interaction.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whether you're saved or not, whether you have, whether you're, I would say, lukewarm Christian, you have these interactions and it triggers something in you that, okay, this is something serious. I need to think about it, and I need to really align myself into these with these core values.
Right.
So yeah, that was my interaction with you, which was very impactful.
I remember leaving the farmers market, and I told Bundy, my son, I just said, I feel like I just had a divine appointment. And I couldn't really explain it all. I just knew that when you and I started talking, the Holy Spirit was present. Because like you said, we started tearing up. It was so powerful when we started talking. I just knew that the Lord had done something in that moment. But I would love for you to tell our listeners how you poured the candles, which is something you shared with me on that first day.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I briefly mentioned earlier, that the whole journey started with my own personal reasons. I absolutely love fragrances. I love flowers. Growing up, we had a small floral garden in our backyard. So I grew up in Lebanon. So it always had a very pleasant memories in my head going through childhood. And just having to use perfumes. And I'm in commercial interior design space where we do incorporate a lot of scents, because that's the first impression as you walk into a hotel or any lobbies. Having to work with different scents and personally wearing perfumes and constantly having candles when I'm working on the elevations or on my computer, it started to trigger a lot of headaches, turning into serious episodes of migraines, where one day I ended up in ER.
Wow.
So doctors started telling me that you can't really have too much scents around you. Sometimes perfume's a trigger point. Sometimes it's the candle. And it's kind of shocked me. Candles, because to us, it's just we are burning scents,
Right.
it's very harmless. Then I started doing a lot of research on that because, again, it was part of my work. So I can't really disconnect from it. I have to work with it. So what's the substitute for it, right? So I started playing around with dry floral extracts, and I would make little tiny diffusers, and that turned into candle making, learned a lot that how even larger companies are using cost-effective wax, right? And just pouring oil on top of it. And then once you start lighting it up, after a couple of use, you are essentially not smelling anything. You're just burning and inhaling that cheap wax, which triggers your sinuses, your headaches, and migraines. So I started making these candles for myself, and I loved making it. I personally love cooking. To me, it's a very serene and zen exercise to do. So I started making a lot of candles, and my husband was like, "What are you going to do with all these candles?"
Yeah.
And at that time I was pregnant. So we started to just try out local markets and see how it goes. And I quickly realized how much appreciation people had for organic products.
Right.
And I proudly share the details how I came about learning about the wax. We use food grade soy wax instead of just any wooden wick. We use sandalwood wick, which doesn't create black soot or smoke. What you inhale is important, right? And then floral extracts versus using any oils, chemicals, or any essential oils add on. So that made the whole product 100% organic.
Right.
From down to the vessels, it's powder coated. So we want to make sure that there are zero hot flashers, chemicals used. So I hand make these, right? And till this day, when we pour candles, we are praying that whoever lights these candles in their homes are blessed and it continue to spread and share the blessings. And again, to me, natural purity is very much aligned with what God has designed for us and how He designed this world. At the end of the day, it is our temple we want to take care of, right? So we have to be very mindful about how it impacts our health and our well-being. Just like music, florals have impact on you. Some of them are calming and soothing. Some of them are upbeat, energetic. So we continue to design these candles just to help people, not just to smell good, but to impact their well-being and mental health as well.
Okay, so I know when that first time we met, you talked about, praying over the candles. What made you want to pray over them? Because I think something you said was that as they light them, it would draw the light of the Lord into their house. And I was just like undone by that. I thought that was so beautiful. How did that kind of come about?
So I am originally from New York. And then I moved to California with my husband. He's from California. And not that anything is wrong with those states or cities, it was always this feeling of not being able to openly talk about faith. Right. As much as we want to spread the word, we have to be mindful about what people are open to, right? And what is acceptable in an environment that you are not causing any disruption, because that's not what our goal is when we are trying to spread the word.
Right.
It was different in Texas. It felt it was easier to communicate and talk about the Lord and all the blessings that He has provided us. So I always had this thing in the back of my heart, my mind, that what is it that we can do beside being representative through our actions to pray over people, to one day hopefully impact them and change their minds. And I always say open their minds, because everybody has that in them, right? And just open up their minds. So that's what triggers praying for people who openly told me that they don't believe there is God, or openly told me that they don't want to talk about it. So I felt like the product was going to far more bigger audience than people that I had in my close circle. So this is also part of my living core values, that I try to serve strangers by act of kindness. I try my best as much as possible on a daily basis, but mainly when I'm interacting with people at the store. So that's what triggers praying over candles, that I know is going to reach the larger audience. And one day, hopefully, when they light the candle, He's present, more present with them, and they start talking about or thinking about purity.
Right. The other thing you had mentioned, I think, is there's a lot of people that have a small business or have, they're in a position where they have a lot of say. And I think there are some things that they can be really intentional about. And I'm hoping, like, through these episodes, that people really just maybe take a step back and think, what could I be doing to serve the Lord? What could I be doing to serve the person in front of me? And I think sometimes we feel like we have to do so much. And I believe that the Lord is just saying, just speak to the person in front of you, just to the one, right? You don't have to solve all the world's problems. Just as I bring you people, just serve them and show them the love of Jesus. And there was another story you told me that reminded me of that, is when I came the second time to see you, and you also had some things that, what are they called? Things that you put in your house, like
the decor items.
Yes, thank you, decor items. and how you actually acquired those. So tell me about that, because I love the way you're so intentional.
I think, and this is something my husband says all the time as well, God puts ideas in you, right? God gives you the purpose and concepts. You have to take the step back and constantly remind yourself. And I just had this conversation with my husband this morning that you cannot do better than God, period, right? So he comes first. So if you have this mindset that he is the most powerful source and he is the only one who can do it with perfection, then you take a step back and you just listen and let it sink in. To your point, just take one step at a time and deal with one person in front of you. Our mindsets work in a way that sometimes we take upon more by overthinking or more by thinking that I have to do it, right? And that uneasiness is not godly. So when you have that feeling, you have to take a step back, take a breather, and just throw your hands up. I always tell people, just try to throw your hands up. That's indication of telling your own body and mind that you have to let him take the lead.
Right.
Right. And then you are just listening and processing things and being strategic about it, but just don't try to strategize yourself, because then you are now telling God that you don't necessarily trust his process unintentionally. Right. So you have to, like you say, take a step back and just listen, because he has put the idea in you. He is going to guide you. Just need to put in the labor, right? You have the concept, but you have to be very calm, collective, and very, I would say, comfortable with the fact that it will come to fruition as long as you don't panic and as long as you don't think that you have to do it all.
Right.
Because he's the one leading and you have to let him lead.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the decor items that you get over in, did you say Africa, where you are?
So I, through my commercial interior design space, came about how these items were being manufactured, how were these items being made. I absolutely love pieces which are handmade, which are organic and handmade at home.
Wow.
So I think in this country, we haven't made, right? Sometimes we do feel like there are a lot of financial stresses on us, but if we were to compare with other countries and what they're going through, if those women who are taking care of their children, living in villages, are able to hand make these items, taking the time out and still keep it quality and organic, they deserve the recognition.
Right.
And they deserve the right price and the right revenue amount that they should be getting. So instead of commercializing it and wholesaling and giving them 20 cents for each item, they should be getting the revenue that they deserve. And that's what our goal is.
Yes.
So we only work with vendors who are hand making these, who are from different countries. So in some villages, they don't have mortgages. They own their little tiny homes, but it does cover their groceries and their school expenses for their kids and things like that. So it's far more meaningful than just selling decor. So our number one goal is to, again, support the women who are making this. All these decor items, but also giving them the fair share of recognition in terms of dollar amount that they truly deserve.
Yes, I love that, because like we talked about, it gives them this dignity too. It reminds them that I know that, other vendors may buy it on the cheap, but really they deserve more than that, because it is a quality product that you're recognizing that they worked hard on it and it looks good. And so it's like, it's another little side ministry per se, right? That you are loving the people that you're getting the products from, which again, just shows me how if we can just be intentional, right? If we are asking the Lord, how can I serve people? There's really more opportunities maybe than we imagine, and we can't really fix the whole big problem with the women in the villages not getting paid what they're worth from other vendors, but we can just do the one thing. You can just pay the lady that, show her worth. And so it was just another story that I absolutely love, because I think more people could do that if we just kind of take a step back. And do you have any others like stories that you could share where the customers have come back or they have seen a different side of Jesus because of what you've done?
I had very powerful moments, moments which would give me feelings of just completely blacking out and just being in the present praying with customers that I had never imagined would happen in a business world. And I have been in typical corporate America world for 15 years.
Wow.
I had people who held my hands and prayed with me. I had people who came and gave me little art pieces with word Jesus on it or Bible verses. So we have POS banks. So every time I get those nice artworks, I always keep them inside the bank. So every time someone is working or if I'm opening the bank, I see those. So I would say it let people be comfortable openly talking about God that they would typically not mention visiting any store or during a normal customer salesman interaction.
Right.
Down to holding hands and just praying and
Wow.
praying in tongues. Sometimes we just like close our eyes.
Yeah.
Some of the beautiful, beautiful interactions I had. Couple of them that I can think of. One is a beautiful family. They are just so sweet and so loving. Just always pray. When I shared the story how the product was made, that's when they felt comfortable praying and sharing their stories of how purity can take you to a whole nother level and who they are and sharing their personal stories. And I think that's how you spread the word too, right? When you share your personal faith stories, you're not only spreading the world, but you're making my faith even more stronger.
Oh, yes.
Something that my husband wrote on a refrigerator one day. There was a time when my mother-in-law was going through breast cancer. She was staying with us, and it was hard sometimes just in front of her being very strong, and in the background was just like breaking down.
Yeah.
So he wrote on the refrigerator, every time you're trying to pray or you're going through a challenging situation, first thing you need to do is activate your faith.
Oh,
So
yes.
he wrote that on the refrigerator, activate your faith every morning. So sometimes during the interaction, when you're sharing your story, how pure organic these products are, it activates the faith on both ends.
Oh,
Right?
wow. I like that.
And then you start praying. So I had that beautiful family. One of my favorite interaction was a little while ago. A couple who had a honeymoon at a city where the candle was from, or the florals were from, and it reminded them of their honeymoon. And so I gifted them the candle, and their response was, "Can we pray with you?" Like one of those moments, that just makes your weeks and months that, wow, this was a beautiful exchange, priceless, right? We were holding hands, praying, things like that. We prayed so many times with different customers. I had some customers who became my friends, who came to my home multiple times. And one of our customers have my son's baby picture in our living room. She's kind of like my sister now. So I think spreading the word and sharing the story impacted both sides and gave me experiences again that I never imagined that I will gain just praying and talking about Jesus.
Wow. Wow. I am so glad that we met. And I really hope that our listeners will, like we said, activate your faith, maybe take a step back and think, what can I do? We're not trying to give people, especially business owners, one more thing to do, but we are trying to help you find some kind of joy in what you're already doing and really find the opportunities to love people because you can just see Tara, how she's beaming, right? Because she's doing what she loves, but she's also loving other people and feeling Jesus's spirit. So if you would do me a favor and subscribe to my podcast or subscribe to my YouTube page, it really helps me get a bigger reach. And we really want business owners to know that there's other opportunities out there for them to kind of show Jesus's love.